Hi again, everybody, and welcome back. We're glad to be back with you for another football season as Georgia embarks on game number one this weekend in Charlotte, North Carolina against the Clemson Tigers. We've got two Georgia greats with us here somewhere on the screen in DJ Shockley and Eric Zier, both also members of the Georgia Bulldogs Sports Network radio crew. Glad to have them along. DJ, welcome to the crew. This will be your first year joining us, so we want to welcome you aboard, and we're looking forward to Saturday. And, you know, both of you guys have played in this Clemson series in your time at Georgia. DJ, we'll start with you. You know, what memories do you have of the games against Clemson that you played?
Scott, I'll be honest, the first game that I played against Clemson was my redshirt freshman year, and I was definitely afraid in warmups. I walk out there, and I'm looking at these dudes. I'm like, I'm finna play with these dudes. These dudes look humongous. So the first chance I got out there, I remember they go cover zero, which is an all-out blitz. And I know I had Terrence Edwards to my right, and he always said, you didn't know where to go, just throw it to me. He runs a quick slant. I hit him on it, and obviously he goes in and scores, and I end up having a running touchdown in it. But I just remember the how fun it was to play in that game and how cool it was to have both fan bases all in. The first one was the night game. The next one was at 12 o'clock when it was 147 degrees. But obviously, two games that you don't forget just because of the rivalry of it, and it was such a big-time ball game.
Z, how about you?
Yeah, for me, you know, the big memory that stands out on my end, my freshman year, 1991, Clemson rolled in a top 5 team at the time. Obviously, very skilled, highly rated. It was probably the most electric stadium that I had played in, obviously up until that time, and probably through my career in Athens. That was the day where the Braves had won the division for the first time. All of that energy carried into the stadium. So you get into the stadium that night. It was a night game. The fan base was just electric. And then, you know, we come out. It's a 3-3 football game. Throughout the first half, we get the ball back with, right around 30 seconds. We throw a long pass to Arthur Marshall, gets us down to, around the 10, 15-yard line. And then we throw a little fade in the end zone to Andre Hastings to carry all that momentum into the locker room. And then from that point, carried it through and won the football game. It was really the launching pad for Operation Turnaround at the time. For our program, but just an amazing night, obviously against a great football team. And I expect no different on Saturday.
Yeah, the great thing about those memories that you guys were just talking about was they occurred in Georgia victories. And as you point out, Z, that's what Georgia's pushing for in game number one. Want to get your thoughts, Shock, we'll go back to you. Just about what you feel about this team in general in game number one. How difficult is it preparation-wise in the first game, regardless of opponent? Now, I mean, you're talking a top 5 matchup now, but regardless of opponent, how challenging is it to prepare for that first game if you may not know that much about your opponent?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest part of it is sometimes key players, what they've done, and it's a little bit difficult to prepare for them. But then on the other hand, it's not because you know what they're about, you know who they are, and they're going to bring it. And it's going to be one of those type of ball games you have to be ready for from the jump. And preparing for this game, I think it kind of adds to the excitement because you're so ready for it as opposed to getting ready for a team you probably are much better than. But when you have a primetime matchup like this versus Clemson, you know what kind of ball club they are. They've been in the playoffs, the last 4 or 5 years, whatever it is. And this is a team that you have to be prepared fully for. So understanding who they are is the first part, but knowing that you're playing against a really good opponent helps that preparation a little bit more because you put a little bit more into it because hey, this one is for bragging rights for sure, but it also means a lot as you start the season off.
Hey, see, Clemson lost their 2 primary offensive stars in Lawrence and ATN, and they replaced those with good players, but that downgrade, maybe if you want to call it that, in offensive has elevated the thoughts of Clemson's defensive play because they've got so many players back from an excellent defense last year. Okay, so Clemson's defense getting all the talk right now. How does Georgia's offense prepare to go up against that? And what are your thoughts on Georgia's offensive play as we go into game one?
Yeah, well, listen, it's going to be a challenge. I think the key to this football game is who wins that battle in the trenches when Georgia has the ball. Can our offensive line hold up against, what could be the premier defensive front in all of college football? So if our offensive line holds up, you feel good about our chances to score on any defense in the country, even one that is going to be one of the best out there. But that is the key to this football game because we've got talent everywhere.
Outside of that line of scrimmage, this will be the last question. I want to get your thoughts from both of you guys. Shock, outside of the line of scrimmage, where do you see this game being won for Georgia?
That's a good question because that line of scrimmage is a big part of the game. But I also feel like on the edges as well. Obviously, a lot of talk has been about our secondary, a lot of young guys in the secondary, but talented. How they're going to hold up versus a guy like Justin Ross, who's coming back from injury, who everybody knows is really good. How do our young receivers step up? Obviously, not having Pickens, but you got Burden, you got Kier's, guys who played in some big ball games. I know we saw Donnie do some really good things in spring ball. So can those guys on the outside make some plays for JT? Can they be guys that can bail him out? Can they win those one-on-one matchups when they're going against Clemson's secondary, a secondary that's been around for a while? As we know, we talked about their defense. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens on the edges from the skill guys, from corners to our receivers. Can they win on both sides of the ball when the ball's in the air?
So you got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I echo those thoughts. We're going to see man. We're going to see one-on-one situations on the outside. One of the great things that JT Daniels did last year when he finally got into the mix is when we got one-on-one, he took chances and he let his playmakers go make plays for him. Explosive plays are the other piece of it. Both of these defenses are so good. Driving the field and putting together long drives can be a challenge without question. So when we get those one-on-one situations, do we have the talent and the skill set to make them pay? We saw it at the end of last year. If we could go replicate that, it'll be a good sign for the Dogs.
All right, it's Georgia and Clemson. Saturday night, Charlotte, North Carolina, Bank of America Stadium, 7:30-ish kickoff. Our airtime is 3:30 on the Bulldog Sports Network. We hope you follow along on our coverage. And Shock and Z, thank you. And we will see you guys in Charlotte on Saturday. And go Dogs.
Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.